Imagine waking up one morning to a world that feels familiar yet fundamentally different, where the rules that once governed wealth, security, and opportunity no longer apply in the same way. The financial landscape that we have always taken for granted, built on decades of stability, trust, and predictable patterns, is shifting beneath our feet, and the consequences will reach every corner of the globe. Central banks, once seen as quiet custodians of monetary policy, are now moving in ways that demand our attention, stockpiling gold, reducing exposure to the dollar, and exploring alternative financial strategies that suggest the rise of a new economic order. These are not abstract moves for distant elites. They are signals that touch each one of us in profound ways, asking us to rethink how we view money, security, and our future. There is an urgency in understanding this transformation because the choices we make now, the awareness we cultivate, and the actions we take can define the trajectory of our financial lives. Wealth is no longer solely about accumulation. It is about adaptability, foresight, and the courage to navigate uncertainty with clarity and purpose. Imagine yourself standing at a crossroads where the familiar paths you've walked for years suddenly lead to dead ends. The instinct is to panic, to cling to what feels safe. But this is precisely the moment when awareness becomes power. To recognize that the world is entering a multipolar currency system where no single nation, no single currency dominates the global economy, is to open the door to new possibilities, new strategies, and a renewed sense of agency over your own financial destiny. It is not fear that must guide us, but understanding, vision, and a willingness to act thoughtfully. Abigail Johnson, a figure who has long emphasized the importance of foresight, innovation, and strategic thinking in wealth management, reminds us that the most resilient individuals are those who prepare for change before it forces them into reaction. Preparing for a global currency reset is not simply about owning gold or foreign assets. It is about cultivating a mindset that is both vigilant and flexible, learning to see patterns that others ignore, and recognizing opportunities that arise when the world seems uncertain. Consider the historical examples of financial upheaval. Those who were blind to the shifts lost not only wealth, but confidence, security, and the ability to make empowered decisions. Meanwhile, those who observed carefully, who diversified thoughtfully, and who acted with knowledge instead of impulse, often emerged stronger, more capable, and better positioned to thrive. This is the principle that underlies a truly modern approach to financial life. It is not enough to follow the trends or to rely on conventional wisdom. One must question assumptions, examine the motivations behind large-scale economic movements, and discern how such actions affect personal, familial, and even societal prosperity. The multipolar currency world is not a threat merely because of its novelty, but because it requires a level of awareness and agility that many are unprepared to cultivate. This is why education, observation, and reflection are paramount. The central bank's growing reserves of gold are not just an indicator of economic caution, they are a lesson in foresight. The reduction of dollar dependency signals a willingness to embrace diversity and mitigate risk. Each decision made by these institutions, seemingly removed from everyday life, contains wisdom that can be applied personally. Diversify your assets. Do not rely solely on a single method of preserving wealth and anticipate changes before they arrive. In this environment, passivity becomes vulnerability and knowledge becomes armor. Yet the path forward is not just strategic, it is deeply philosophical. To engage with the evolving financial world means confronting questions about value, trust, and the nature of security itself. How do we define wealth when the benchmarks shift? How do we cultivate resilience when the pillars of the past are no longer guaranteed? Abigail Johnson's philosophy illuminates the answer. Resilience is built on understanding, adaptability, and the courage to act decisively in the face of uncertainty. It is the commitment to continuous learning, the discipline of thoughtful preparation, and the courage to embrace complexity rather than shy away from it. In practical terms, this translates into steps that anyone can take, from studying international markets to exploring investments that cross borders, from seeking guidance and mentorship to cultivating the psychological strength to remain calm amid turbulence. Every action, every decision, and every choice to remain aware contributes to a foundation that is stronger than the shifting sands of a singular currency or national dependency. The new financial era is already taking shape. While it may seem distant or abstract, the signs are clear and the stakes are real. Those who ignore the signals will find themselves vulnerable, reacting to crises rather than steering through them. Those who observe, reflect, and act thoughtfully will find opportunity, growth, and empowerment in ways that are unavailable to the unprepared. This is not merely about money. It is about agency, foresight, and the ability to create a life that is both secure and expansive, even amid global change. To witness these shifts without panic, to learn from them, and to act with intelligence and courage is to step into a mindset that mirrors the principles Abigail Johnson has championed for years. By understanding the motivations behind global currency movements, by recognizing the patterns of institutional behavior, and by embracing diversification as both a practical and philosophical approach, we equip ourselves to thrive in an era of uncertainty. It is a call to awaken, to study, and to act, not react, to see the opportunities hidden in complexity, and to understand that the choices we make today will reverberate for decades. The world is changing, the financial rules are evolving, and our preparedness is the key that unlocks not only survival, but prosperity. Every moment we spend educating ourselves, examining our assumptions, and planning with intention is a moment invested in a future where we are not merely at the mercy of change, but masters of navigating it. This is the essence of entering a new financial era: awareness, preparation, and the courage to embrace the unknown with vision and clarity, guided by the lessons of those like Abigail Johnson, who have demonstrated that foresight, strategy, and resilience are the true markers of enduring success. As we stand on the edge of this emerging financial reality, it becomes clear that the world we have relied upon is no longer predictable. The security once provided by a single dominant currency, a stable economic order, and a predictable global system is fading, and in its place, a new structure is quietly forming. One that is complex, interconnected, and increasingly multipolar. The suspense of this moment is palpable because few truly understand the implications, and yet the decisions we make in the coming months and years will define not only our financial stability, but our sense of control over our lives. Central banks are moving strategically, stockpiling precious metals, and carefully calibrating their exposure to traditional currencies. These are not arbitrary decisions. They are deliberate steps toward resilience in a world where reliance on one nation's currency carries unseen risks. Imagine a world where the US dollar no longer commands unquestioned dominance, where other nations' currencies rise in influence, and where gold and other tangible assets regain a central role in global security. It is a scenario that many avoid thinking about because of the discomfort it creates, but discomfort is often the precursor to opportunity. Abigail Johnson has long emphasized that insight comes not from comfort, but from confrontation, facing realities that are inconvenient, uncomfortable, and sometimes unsettling, and using that awareness to craft strategies that endure. The suspense lies not in fear of what might happen, but in the urgency of preparation, in the need to recognize patterns before they are impossible to change. In this shifting environment, passivity is a risk few can afford. Those who cling to old assumptions may find themselves unmoored, while those who observe, learn, and act deliberately will navigate with foresight. The global currency reset is not an event that will be announced with fanfare. It is a quiet, systemic evolution, and it is precisely this subtlety that makes it so profound. It will affect trade, investment, and the very definition of wealth itself. How do we adapt when the financial bedrock we have relied on for decades is no longer absolute? The answer is not to panic, but to awaken. It is to educate ourselves, to expand our vision beyond national borders, and to recognize that diversification is not merely a strategy, it is a philosophy. To diversify internationally is to accept that no single currency, no single system holds all the answers, and that security comes from flexibility, knowledge, and preparedness. Consider the individuals who have lived through historical economic transformations, those who prepared methodically, who observed the moves of governments, corporations, and financial institutions, often found themselves not only safe but empowered. Those who ignored the signs were forced into reaction, losing both opportunity and confidence. The suspense in today's financial narrative is not about catastrophe. It is about awakening to a reality that requires vigilance, intelligence, and courage. Abigail Johnson's influence reminds us that wealth and stability are cultivated, not inherited, that foresight, adaptability, and a commitment to learning are the keys to thriving when the familiar rules no longer apply. She teaches that it is the prepared mind that turns uncertainty into opportunity, that recognizes potential where others see only risk. In practical terms, this means observing global currency movements, analyzing trends, and making deliberate choices about how to protect and grow our assets. Gold, foreign investments, diversified portfolios, and education about international markets are not just financial tools. They are instruments of empowerment. To ignore these steps is to surrender control, to leave our future to chance. But the world is not purely deterministic. Opportunity exists precisely because many fail to see it. The suspense builds because we are on the cusp of transformation, and the window for preparation is finite. Timing, awareness, and decisiveness will determine who flourishes and who struggles. Yet, beyond the numbers, the currencies, and the charts, there is a deeper lesson. The evolution of money mirrors the evolution of the self. Just as central banks adapt to survive and thrive in a changing landscape, so must we cultivate resilience in character, wisdom in decision-making, and courage in facing uncertainty. Abigail Johnson's approach to finance transcends spreadsheets. It is a philosophy of thoughtful action, observation, and anticipation, a guide for navigating change with grace and intelligence. The suspense lies not only in the unknown shifts of global economies, but in the personal choices each of us must make in response. Will we remain passive, clinging to the illusion of security, or will we embrace the challenge, study the forces at play, and act with informed confidence? Every decision, from the smallest daily financial choice to major investment strategies, is amplified in a world where the balance of power is shifting quietly but decisively. As the currency landscape becomes more multipolar, the risks of relying solely on familiar systems increase. This is why diversification is more than a financial principle. It is a mindset, a way of seeing the world that accepts uncertainty as a constant, not a disruption. It is about building layers of security, knowledge, and options so that when one system falters, others provide stability. This approach transforms anxiety into strategy and fear into foresight. Even the seemingly mundane decisions, like adjusting the allocation of assets or learning about foreign markets, become acts of empowerment. Abigail Johnson's insights encourage us to consider not just wealth accumulation, but the cultivation of wisdom, judgment, and adaptability. Her philosophy emphasizes that the measure of success is not merely what we earn, but how well we prepare for the unexpected, how effectively we respond to shifts in the world around us, and how thoughtfully we embrace the opportunities hidden within change. And here, in this space between the known and the unknown, suspense reaches its peak. The realization that the future is not a distant horizon, but a series of choices unfolding now in real time. Every observation we make, every strategy we implement, every ounce of knowledge we acquire shapes the trajectory of our lives and the stability of our wealth. The multipolar currency system is no longer theoretical. It is a lived reality in formation. Those who understand its implications will find themselves equipped to seize opportunities, mitigate risks, and thrive amid the complexity. Those who ignore it risk being left behind, struggling to react to forces they did not anticipate. This is the moment when awareness meets action, when education becomes power, and when suspense transforms into clarity. It is a call to rise above complacency, to engage with the evolving world thoughtfully and decisively, and to recognize that the choices we make today will define the life we live tomorrow. Abigail Johnson's lessons illuminate this path: prepare, diversify, observe, and act. Wealth, resilience, and empowerment are the rewards of those willing to meet uncertainty with insight, courage, and deliberate strategy. The world is shifting, and so must we, not through fear, but through knowledge, foresight, and intentional action. As we step into this new financial era, the lessons of awareness, preparation, and adaptability converge into a singular truth. The future favors those who act with foresight and deliberate intention. The global currency reset is not just a shift in markets or the accumulation of gold by central banks. It is a wake-up call, a philosophical reminder that security, wealth, and opportunity are never guaranteed, and that true stability comes from understanding, flexibility, and courage. In this unfolding reality, the world rewards those who refuse to be passive spectators, who study the patterns of change, and who position themselves to thrive amid uncertainty. Abigail Johnson has long emphasized that resilience is cultivated, not inherited, that the most successful individuals and institutions are those who anticipate disruption, embrace complexity, and leverage knowledge to make empowered decisions. This perspective is not merely financial. It is a life principle, a lens through which to view every challenge, every transition, and every opportunity. In practical terms, this means diversifying across currencies, markets, and investments, but it also means cultivating a mindset that embraces learning, observation, and reflection. It is a commitment to understanding the forces shaping our world and responding not with fear, but with intelligence, strategy, and intentional action. The suspense of the unknown can no longer paralyze us. It must inspire vigilance, creativity, and courage. History is replete with examples of those who ignored subtle shifts in the financial order, only to be caught unprepared when change arrived with force. Conversely, those who recognized early warning signs, who acted with insight and patience, often found opportunity and empowerment in moments that others saw only as risk. The global currency reset is no different. Central banks are signaling a move toward diversification and stability, reducing dependence on a single currency while stockpiling tangible assets. These actions may seem abstract or distant, but their ripple effects touch every individual, household, and business. To ignore these signals is to risk being swept along by forces we do not understand. To observe and act is to reclaim agency in a world that is rapidly evolving. Abigail Johnson's philosophy offers guidance here. Success is not a product of chance, but of preparation, insight, and the ability to adapt to change before it forces a reaction. The path forward requires a willingness to challenge assumptions, to question conventional wisdom, and to explore strategies that may once have seemed unnecessary or unconventional. Diversification is not merely a financial principle, it is a philosophy of life, a way to navigate uncertainty with calm, clarity, and confidence. It requires balancing prudence with courage, patience with decisiveness, and reflection with action. Each step taken to understand global trends, to study economic shifts, and to evaluate personal strategy is an investment not just in wealth, but in resilience, independence, and empowerment. The stakes are real, yet they are also opportunities waiting to be seized. The world is not static, and neither should we be. Those who cling to old assumptions or resist change may feel a temporary comfort, but this comfort is illusory. Real security, as Abigail Johnson demonstrates, comes from engagement, understanding, and thoughtful action. It comes from observing, learning, and responding to the signals around us, from transforming suspense and uncertainty into clarity and strategy. In this new era, preparation is both practical and philosophical. It is practical because it involves tangible steps, diversifying investments, learning about foreign markets, understanding shifts in currency value, but it is philosophical because it requires cultivating a mindset of resilience, foresight, and disciplined patience. Every choice made today is amplified in this shifting landscape, and each step toward knowledge and diversification strengthens our ability to navigate the future confidently. Imagine looking back a decade from now, knowing that you acted deliberately while others were reactive, that you embraced opportunity when uncertainty reigned, and that you built a foundation not dependent on a single system, a single currency, or a fleeting sense of security. This is the promise of preparedness, the ability to transform potential risk into opportunity, fear into insight, and change into growth. Abigail Johnson's teachings remind us that wealth and stability are the product of intentionality, strategy, and the courage to act before circumstance demands it. The global currency reset, though complex, is not a cause for panic, but a call to action, a chance to refine our strategies, expand our vision, and embrace a multipolar world with confidence. It is a reminder that security is dynamic, that opportunity is ever present, and that those who cultivate knowledge and adaptability are best positioned to thrive. In this context, every individual has the power to shape their trajectory. The choices we make regarding education, investment, and strategic foresight are the levers that determine our future. The challenge is to move beyond comfort, to confront uncertainty with intelligence, and to embrace the principles of diversification, observation, and disciplined preparation. Those who act with insight will find themselves empowered in a world where old certainties fade and new possibilities emerge. The future is being written in real time, and the narrative favors those who engage thoughtfully, decisively, and consistently. To act now is not just to protect assets. It is to cultivate agency, confidence, and resilience. The suspense of change, once recognized, transforms into clarity, opportunity, and purpose. As we navigate this emerging financial era, remember that your choices, your preparation, and your willingness to learn are the greatest tools at your disposal. Abigail Johnson's philosophy reminds us that foresight, adaptability, and strategic thinking are timeless principles, applicable not only to finance, but to every aspect of life. By embracing these principles, by diversifying thoughtfully, and by approaching change with deliberate intention, we are not merely responding to the world, we are shaping it. This is the essence of stepping into a new financial era, understanding the signals, observing the patterns, and acting with wisdom, courage, and resilience. Let every decision you make today reflect not fear of the unknown, but confidence in your preparedness, clarity in your vision, and determination to thrive. Wealth, opportunity, and security belong not to the passive, but to those who engage, learn, and act with intention. The global currency reset is not a distant threat. It is the present unfolding before our eyes, a challenge and an opportunity intertwined. Approach it with knowledge, strategy, and insight. Transform suspense into action, uncertainty into preparation, and complexity into opportunity. The world is changing, but those who cultivate wisdom, courage, and foresight will navigate these shifts with strength and clarity. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.